Welcome back. Let the rain settle your thoughts as we explore a story about love, betrayal, and the choices that change everything. These are real stories, told slowly so you can rest while you listen. I'm curious, where are you listening from tonight, and do stories like this help you fall asleep? Story 1, The Box in My Childhood Closet. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who could keep a secret like this. But here I am, sitting in the dust of my old bedroom, holding the proof that the man I've shared a bed with for 12 years, the father of my children, is a complete stranger. And the worst part, I have to decide whether to shatter our world with the truth or bury it forever to protect the fragile peace we've built. My name is Maya. 2 weeks ago, my life was what you call comfortably numb. The morning this all started was a Tuesday, utterly unremarkable. I was scrambling to get our twins Lily and Leo fed and out the door for school. My husband Ben was in his usual spot at the kitchen island, scrolling through financial news on his tablet, a half-eaten piece of toast beside him. "Don't forget the parent-teacher conferences are virtual tonight," I said, pouring orange juice. 7 sharp. He gave a non-committal hum, his eyes never leaving the screen. That was normal. The distance between us had become a third entity in our marriage, a quiet, heavy piece of furniture we'd learned to navigate around. The love was gone, I told myself. It was just tired. We were just tired, but there was a new normal too. For the past 6 months since Ben's big promotion to regional director, his phone had become a vault. He took it everywhere, even the bathroom. It never buzzed or rang on the table anymore. It was always on silent, face down. And he'd started working late one, sometimes 2 nights a week. Catching up, he'd say, kissing my forehead with a tired smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He'd chosen very deliberately to ignore the cold little stone of doubt that had settled in my gut. What's the point of looking for a monster under the bed, I reasoned, when you're both just trying to get some sleep? The catalyst wasn't a text or a lipstick stain. It was my mother. She'd decided at 72 to finally downsize and sell the house I grew up in. "I need you to clear out your old room, Maya," Shed said on the phone. "The realtor says clutter is a mood killer." So that Tuesday, after dropping the kids at after-school care, I drove across town to the suburban split level of my childhood. The air inside was stale, smelling of lemon polish and memories. My old room was a time capsule of teenage angst, band posters, trophies, a dusty collection of porcelain horses on a shelf. The task was simple: trash bag for junk, donation box for the rest. It was mindless, therapeutic work until I got to the back of my closet. Behind a stack of yearbooks and a forgotten winter coat, my fingers brushed against cardboard. I pulled out a medium-sized moving box, sealed with brittle packing tape. It wasn't mine. Scrawled across the top in my father's neat architect's handwriting was, "Ben Personal." My father had died 5 years ago. Ben and my dad had been close golfing buddies, the kind of in-law relationship people envy. Ben had been devastated when he passed. Seeing his name in my dad's hand sent a pang through me. But why was a box of Ben's things in my childhood closet? I assumed it was some old paperwork or books my dad had been storing for him. Out of sheer, idle curiosity, I sliced the tape. Top layer was innocuous, a stack of my dad's old golf scorecards, a few engineering manuals. Underneath that was a manila folder. I opened it. Inside were bank statements, but not from any account I recognized. The name on them was Benjamin Associates LLC. The statements were from over 8 years ago, around the time Lily and Leo were just babies. The balances were substantial, tens of thousands of dollars. My heart began a slow, heavy thud. Ben had never mentioned the business. I dug deeper. Beneath the financials were photographs. They were casual, candid. Ben looking younger, happier, with his arm around a woman. It wasn't me. She had dark, curly hair and a wide, open smile. In one photo, they were at a beach, squinting into the sun. In another, they were at a cozy-looking restaurant, leaning over a shared dessert. My hands went numb. This was the classic story, wasn't it? The hidden affair, the financial deceit. A part of me almost welcomed the clarity of that pain. But then I saw the date stamp on the back of the beach photo. It was from over 11 years ago, a full year before Ben and I even met. Who was she? A serious girlfriend he'd never mentioned. That was odd, but maybe not unforgivable. People have pasts. But why were these photos and secret bank statements in a box in my dad's house? Have you ever had a moment where your brain just refuses to connect the dots? Because you already know the picture they'll form will destroy everything. I sat there on the carpet, the musty smell of the closet filling my nose, and I just stared. I pulled out the last item in the box. It was a small velvet jeweler's box. My breath hitched. I opened it. Nestled inside wasn't an engagement ring, but a delicate, beautiful pearl pendant on a gold chain. And tucked under the necklace was a folded piece of linen stationery. I recognized my father's handwriting instantly. "My dearest Alina," it began. My blood turned to ice. Lena was my mother's name, but the tone, it was all wrong. It was intimate, romantic, full of a yearning my practical, stoic father had never shown. "Every pearl reminds me of you," the letter read. "The life we built of our beautiful, stubborn son. I am so proud of the man he's becoming. This is for your birthday with all my love forever. Robert, son, our beautiful, stubborn son." The words swam on the page. Robert was my father. Ben was the only son in our lives. The pieces, the horrible, grotesque pieces, began to slam together. Secret business account funded when. The photos of Ben with the dark-haired woman from before we met. My father's handwriting on the box. This love letter to Alina. The son they had together. It wasn't an affair Ben was having. It was my father. And Ben was their child. The world tilted. I vomited right there on the pink shag carpet of my childhood. The physical shock was total. Ben was my half-brother. The Father of my children, my husband, the man I'd built a life with. A raw animal sound tore from my throat, swallowed by the silent, judging walls of my old room. I scrambled away from the box as if it were radioactive. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a cosmic joke, a horror so profound it rewrote my entire history, my very DNA. My father, the moral compass of our family. Then my rock, and my mother, did she know, was the woman in the photo, this Alina. Was she still alive? The questions were like rats gnawing at the foundations of my sanity. I must have sat there for an hour, maybe two, in a state of catatonic shock. Then a survival instinct kicked in. I carefully, methodically put everything back in the box. I resealed it with fresh tape. I placed it exactly where I found it. I cleaned the carpet. I drove home on autopilot, my body operating independently of my shattered mind. When I walked into our house, Ben was home, helping the twins with their homework at the kitchen table. He looked up and smiled. "Hey you, how was the trip down memory lane?" The normalcy of the scene was so violent it made me flinch. My children, our children, looked up at me with his eyes, our father's eyes. "Fine," I heard myself say, my voice strangely flat, "just a lot of junk." I went upstairs and stood under a scalding shower, scrubbing my skin until it was raw, trying to wash the truth off me. It didn't work. For days, I lived in a fog. I performed the motions of motherhood and marriage, a ghost in my own life. I studied Ben with a new, terrifying intensity. I saw my father in the curve of his smile, in the way he rubbed his temple when he was thinking. How had I never seen it? The shared mannerisms it attributed to their close bond, it was genetics. Every touch from him, once a comfort, now felt like a violation. My skin crawled when he hugged me goodnight. The false hope came in a wave of desperate logical bargaining. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Alina was someone else. Maybe son was a term of endearment. Maybe the bank account was for a different Ben. But the evidence was a lock, and the key was the undeniable resemblance that now screamed at me from across the dinner table. I needed to know about Alina. One night when Ben was in the shower, I did the unthinkable. I unlocked his phone. His password was still the twins' birthday, and I searched his contacts, his emails. Nothing. Then I looked at his hidden photo album, the one he thought I didn't know about, protected by a different password. I tried the twins' birthday, denied. My fingers trembled. I tried his mother's birthday, denied. On a sickening hunch, I typed in my father's birthday. The album opened. There she was. The dark-haired woman, older now, her curls streaked with silver. Photo after photo. Ben with his arm around her in a garden. Ben and her at a Christmas dinner, a small festive table set for two. A recent photo, timestamped just 3 months ago. She was holding a birthday cake and Ben was leaning in to blow out the candles. The caption, written by Ben, read, "Happy birthday, Mom. I love you, Mom." The word was a bullet, so she was alive. He knew her. He had a relationship with her. He called her Mom, and he had hidden her from me for our entire marriage. The shower stopped. I frantically closed everything, placed the phone back on his nightstand, and pretended to be asleep. The climax wasn't a shouting match. It was quieter and far worse. I couldn't carry it alone anymore. The secret was poisoning me from the inside. I asked Ben to go for a drive with me on Saturday, just us. I told the twins we were going for coffee. We drove in silence for a while until I pulled into the empty parking lot of the elementary school the twins used to attend. The playground was still, the swings hanging motionless. I went to clean out my old room at my mom's. I began, my voice barely a whisper. I couldn't look at him. I stared straight ahead at the colorful slide. I found a box in the back of my closet. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him go rigid. The color drained from his face. He didn't say a word. It had your name on it, in my dad's writing. The silence in the car was suffocating. I opened it. Ben. A choked sob escaped him. He put his head in his hands, and then in a broken, ragged voice, he told me everything. Alina was my father's mistress of 25 years. Their relationship started years before I was even born. Ben was their secret, born when my father and mother were already married, already trying for a child for me. My father had supported them, set up the business account for Alina, been a part of Ben's life, but always in the shadows. Ben had grown up knowing his father was a married man with another family. He met me once as a teenager at some city event where my father had pointed me out from afar. "That's your half-sister, Maya." He said he'd even both fascinated and repelled. When we met again years later in a completely different city through mutual friends, it felt like fate. He said he fell in love with me instantly, desperately. He told himself the past didn't matter, that we were strangers, that the secret was his father's burden, not his. He married me to have a piece of the family he was never allowed to be a part of, to be close to the father who could never claim him publicly. He never told me because he was terrified of losing me, of destroying both of our families. He visited Alina regularly, had a full life with her as her son, all while building a life with me as my husband. The two worlds were meticulously, horrifyingly compartmentalized. I listened. I didn't cry. I felt a cold, vast emptiness opening up inside me. "Our children," I finally said, the words echoing in the hollow space. "Lily and Leo." He wept openly, then great, heaving sobs of guilt and shame. "I know," he kept repeating. "I know what it means. I've lived with the fear every single day." The confrontation wasn't about anger anymore. It was about the sheer, unimaginable scale of the lie, the biological reality, the life we had built on a foundation of unknowing incest, the potential genetic risks to our beautiful, innocent twins that we now had to face. The love I felt for him wasn't gone. It was mutating into something painful and monstrous, tangled with revulsion and a grief so deep it had no bottom. We're still living in the same house, for now. We've told the kids Mommy and Daddy are going through a very hard time. We sleep in separate rooms. We've started seeing a therapist, a specialist in genetic sexual attraction and profound familial betrayal. The first session was mostly silence and tears. We have to get the children genetically tested, a thought that fills me with a terror I cannot name. I haven't told my mother. I look at her, this woman who was betrayed for decades by the husband she adored, and I don't know if unburdening myself will destroy her or set her free. I look at Ben and I see the boy who was told he was a secret, the man who made the most catastrophic choice imaginable to feel whole, and my husband, the father of my children. I hate him, I pity him, and in my weakest moments I still love the man I thought he was. The future is a blank, terrifying page. There is no roadmap for this. There's only the unbearable weight of the truth, and the daily minute-by-minute choice of how to carry it. Some secrets don't just break your heart, they rewrite your entire universe, and you have to learn to live in the ruins. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It's the first time I've ever spoken it aloud to anyone but a therapist. If you've ever faced a truth that changed everything, or if you're carrying a burden that feels too heavy to share, please know you're not alone. Leave a comment below. Sometimes just writing it down can be a first step. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real, raw journeys through the complexities of human relationships. Story 2, the text message that wasn't for me. The most devastating moment of my life wasn't a scream or a slammed door. It was the soft, almost apologetic ding of my own phone, a sound I'd heard 1,000 times before that finally shattered the entire world I thought I lived in. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how a single message, sent to the wrong person, peeled back the curtain on a decade of my marriage and revealed a stage where I was the only one who didn't know the lines. It was a Tuesday. The kind of day so ordinary it feels like a placeholder. I was in the kitchen, the afternoon sun cutting a warm rectangle across the oak floor where my daughter Lily was coloring. The air smelled of lemon-scented cleaner and the peanut butter sandwich I'd just made her. I was scrolling through my phone, a mindless check of the weather, when David's message popped up. A little bubble of text from my husband. I smiled, a small, automatic thing. He was probably telling me he'd be late or asking if we needed milk. But the preview text made no sense. Can't stop thinking about last night. Your laugh is still in my head. Meet me at the usual place. 7, my brain stuttered. Last night, David had been at a client dinner. He'd come home smelling faintly of steak and whiskey, kissed my forehead, and fallen asleep facing away from me. I'd chalked his distance up to stress. The usual place. We didn't have a usual place. We had a favorite Thai restaurant we hadn't been to in 6 months. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering. The logical part of me whispered it was a joke, a message for a coworker that had slipped into the wrong thread. But David's contact photo picture I'd taken of him laughing on a beach vacation 2 years ago seemed to stare back at me with a cruel, secretive grin. I opened the message, and then I saw it. At the very top, where our long, mundane thread of grocery lists and on my way text lived, was a single new green bar. It said, "Message to myself." He had texted his own number, a draft, a note, a thought he wanted to save. And it had by some cosmic glitch or technological hiccup landed in my inbox instead. This wasn't a me-sent text to a coworker. This was a private thought, a love note to himself about someone else that had somehow escaped and found me. The peanut butter smell turned cloying. Lily's cheerful humming as she colored a purple dinosaur seemed to come from very far away. The sun on the floor was too bright, too exposing. I read the words again. Your laugh is still in my head. I hadn't laughed with him in weeks. My own laugh felt like a forgotten artifact. I remember the physical sensation most. A cold hollow opening up right beneath my ribs, a vacuum that pulled all the warmth and sound from the room into its silent, spinning center. Have you ever had a moment where your entire reality just repainted itself? Where the cracks you've been dutifully ignoring suddenly became the entire blueprint of your life? That's what happened in that kitchen. The client dinners that had become more frequent. The new password on his phone, a casual work security thing he'd mentioned months ago. The way he'd started going to the gym at 6 a.m., a habit he'd always mocked. The subtle retreat of his physical affection, not gone but rationed like he was budgeting his touches. He had framed every single one as stress, as a phase, as the natural ebb of a marriage with a 7-year-old and a mortgage. I was a master architect of reasonable explanations, building a fortress of normalcy over a fault line. I didn't confront him, not then. The shock was too complete, too paralyzing. I became a detective in my own home, moving with a quiet, eerie calm. I checked our phone bill online, my hands steady and numb. There was a number appearing dozens of times a day for months. Texts, calls. I reverse searched it online with a cheap people finder site. A name came up. Alina. A flutter of memory. David mentioning a new graphic designer hired for a big rebranding project at his firm. Really talented, he said. Breath of fresh air. I'd pictured a woman in her 20s. Alina was, according to her sparse LinkedIn profile I found with a trembling click, 42. My age. A different kind of pain, sharper and more personal, lanced through the numbness. This wasn't a cliché midlife crisis with a young intern. This was a choice, a parallel life with a peer. I found the usual place by following him 2 days later. I told him I was taking Lily to my mother's for a sleepover, which was true. I dropped her off, my heart a frantic bird in my chest, and drove back to our neighborhood. I parked a block down from our house behind a neighbor's SUV. When David's car pulled out at 6:45, I followed, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. He didn't drive toward the city. He drove 10 minutes away to a quaint upscale wine bar in a neighboring suburb, one I'd never heard of. I watched from my car, parked across the street under the deepening twilight, as he walked in. Through the window I saw her. She was already there at a small corner table. She had a kind smile and she stood to hug him, not a casual friend hug. A full, lingering embrace, her hand on the back of his neck. He kissed her cheek, then her lips, quick but intimate. They sat, they leaned in. They shared a flight of wine, pointing at the glasses, laughing her laugh, the one still in his head. I sat in my cold car and watched my husband have a date. I watched him be the man I remember, read, attentive, animated, present with someone else. The feeling wasn't rage, it was a profound, annihilating loneliness. I was a ghost watching the living. I drove back to my empty house. The silence was absolute. I poured a glass of wine, the same Pinot Noir we used to drink together, and sat at our kitchen island. I looked at our family photos on the wall. Our wedding, Lily's birth, trip to Disneyland. A gallery of evidence for a life that now felt like a beautifully produced documentary about another family. I thought about packing a bag. I thought about screaming. I thought about pretending I never saw anything. But the text message glowed in my mind, an undeniable truth. I decided with a clarity that felt both terrifying and peaceful that I would not fight for him. I would not scream or beg. The marriage I thought I had was already dead. I just needed to bury it. The confrontation happened the next evening. Lily was at a friend's house. I cooked dinner, a recipe he loved. I set the table. I felt like an actor preparing for the most important performance of her life. When he came home, he seemed lighter, humming. The scent of the wine bar, or maybe just her perfume, seemed to cling to him. We made small talk. He asked about my day. I said it was illuminating. We ate. The silence grew heavy. Finally, I put my fork down. "David," I said, my voice strangely calm. "I got a text from you the other day, a really sweet one." He looked up, confused, a small smile playing on his lips. "Oh yeah. I picked up my phone, opened the message, and slid it across the table to him. It was meant for a leaner, I assume. I watched the color drain from his face. It was a slow, sickening process, like watching a glass of milk tip over in slow motion. His eyes darted from the phone to my face, back to the phone. "Sarah, it's not what it looks like. That was a draft. You were texting yourself." I finished for him, my tone flat. "I know. The message to myself is a bit of a giveaway, but the sentiment was for her. Your laugh is still in my head. That's lovely, David. Really, the dam broke then. Not with yelling, but with a torrent of panicked, contradictory excuses that collapsed under their own weight. It was an emotional affair that got physical. It was a mistake. It was over. It wasn't over. He was confused. He loved me. He didn't know what he wanted. He cried. He reached for my hand. I pulled it back, placing it in my lap. I felt nothing but a vast, empty stillness. "I followed you last night," I said quietly, "to the wine bar. I saw you with her." His begging stopped. The room went utterly silent. That was the true climax. Not the revelation of the affair, but the moment he realized I had seen it. That I had witnessed his betrayal with my own eyes from the cold dark of my car. The performance was over. The audience had seen backstage. The shame that flooded his features was more real than any of his tears. There was nothing left to say. I told him he needed to leave. He packed a bag that night, moving through our home like a stranger, a sleepwalker. He kept saying he was sorry, that he would fix it. I just nodded, standing in the doorway of our bedroom, a sentinel at the border of my new, broken country. That was 8 months ago. The divorce is finalized. We share custody of Lily, and we are, against all odds, civil for her sake. He is with a leaner now. I hear they're looking at houses. Some days, the anger hits me like a truck injure at the wasted years, the planned future now ash, the intimacy given to someone else. But more often, there's just a quiet, persistent sadness for the woman I was, the one who believed the narrative so completely she didn't see the author was writing another story on the side. I'm in therapy. I'm rediscovering old hobbies. I'm learning how to be Sarah, not David's wife. The text message is still on my phone. I haven't deleted it. It's my receipt, my proof of purchase for a pain I didn't choose, but from which I am slowly, stubbornly rebuilding. I don't know if he'll ever trust like that again. I don't know if love is worth this particular brand of devastation. All I know is that the truth, no matter how much it breaks you, is the only foundation left to build on once the pretty lies have burned away. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It's not an easy one to tell, but there's a strange comfort in sharing these deeply human experiences. If this resonated with you, or if you've ever faced a betrayal that redefined your world, I'd be so grateful if you'd share your own thoughts or experiences in the comments below. Let's support each other. And if you want to hear more real, raw stories of relationships, survival, and the messy path to healing, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It means more than you know. Story 3, the day I found his other ring. I think the worst part is the silence. Not the shouting, not the accusations, not even the sound of the door closing for the last time. It's the silence that comes after, in the spaces where his laughter used to be, in the halt of the bed where his body once fit against mine. It's the silence of a truth so loud it drowns out everything else. My name is Chloe, and I want to tell you about the day I found the other ring, and how a piece of jewelry I never wore ended my marriage. It was a Tuesday, one of those bland, beige days that makes up the fabric of a suburban life. Our life. James and I had our routine down to science. He'd kiss my forehead at 6:15 a.m., his breath smelling of mint toothpaste and sleep. He'd hand him his travel mug, the one with the chipped handle from our first camping trip. "Love you, have a good day," he'd say. "Drive safe," I'd reply. It was a liturgy, comforting in its predictability. That morning, though, as he pulled away, I stood at the kitchen window, watching his silver sedan disappear around the bend. A strange, cold feeling settled in my stomach, a feeling I'd been ignoring for months. I chalked it up to the gray sky and my second cup of coffee going cold. The cracks were there if I'd let myself see them. The new passcode on his phone. The business trips that always seemed to fall on weekends. The way he'd started working out again, buying cologne I didn't recognize. I told myself it was a midlife crisis, a bid for confidence. The alternative was too terrifying to consider. Our quiet suburban home, felt less like a sanctuary and more like a beautifully staged set. I moved through the rooms, dusting surfaces that didn't need it, straightening picture frames of us smiling on beaches and at weddings. I decided to finally tackle the walk-in closet, a project I'd been putting off for a year. It was a monument to our shared life-high suits neatly hung beside my dresses, his sneakers lined up below my heels. I started with the top shelf, pulling down old shoeboxes of memorabilia. Ticket stubs, love notes from our college days, a dried corsage from my senior prom. I was smiling, lost in the sweet ache of nostalgia, when my fingers brushed against something at the very back of the shelf, behind a stack of winter sweaters. It was a small, velvet box, navy blue, not the forest green one from the jeweler who'd sold us my engagement ring. My heart did a funny little stutter, an early anniversary gift, but our anniversary lasted for months. I sat down on the carpet, the cold air from the floor vent raising goosebumps on my legs. I opened the box. Nestled inside was a ring. It was beautiful, a delicate pear-shaped diamond set on a thin rose gold band. It was nothing like my own classic solitaire. This was younger, trendier, and it was clearly worn. There was a faint smudge on the band, and the tiny prongs holding the diamond had the slightest bit of dust in the crevices. This wasn't a new purchase waiting for a surprise. This was someone else's ring. I felt the world tilt. The air grew thick and hard to breathe. I stared at it, this small, glittering betrayal, until the facets of the diamond blurred into a single, painful star. Have you ever held evidence of your own heartbreak in the palm of your hand? That moment where a suspicion crystallizes into cold, hard truth. It's a physical sensation, a punch to the solar plexus that leaves you gasping silently on a closet floor. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there, the box in my hand, feeling a numbness spread from my core to my fingertips. My mind, however, was a frantic animal, scratching at every memory, every oddity. The golf weekends. The text he'd quickly minimized when I walked into the room. The perfume scent I'd once found on his collar that he blamed on a heavily scented client. I placed the box back on the shelf exactly as I'd found it. I finished cleaning the closet with robotic efficiency. I made dinner. When James came home, I watched him. I studied the man I'd shared a bed with for 12 years. He kissed my cheek, asked about my day. His eyes, those warm hazel eyes I'd fallen in love with, darted around the room before landing on me. Was there guilt there, or was I just seeing what I now expected to see? For a week, I lived in a state of suspended animation. I played the part of Chloe, the wife. I laughed at his jokes. I folded his socks, but every interaction was filtered through the lens of the ring. I became a detective in my own life. One night, he fell asleep on the couch, his phone unlocked on his chest. The impulse was a tidal wave. I took it, crept into the bathroom, and locked the door. My hands shook as I opened his text messages. There was nothing incriminating. His email was clean. His social media showed nothing. He was careful, too careful. Then I remembered an old email account he'd used for fantasy football, one he probably thought was forgot. I typed it in, hit forgot password, and sent a reset link to his phone. I heard the ping from the living room. I waited, my ear pressed to the door, until I heard his sleepy grumble and the sound of him turning over. I opened the door, tiptoed to the coffee table, and with the light of the television flickering over his face, I carefully lifted his thumb and pressed it to the phone's sensor. It unlocked. Back in the bathroom, I reset the password and logged in. The inbox was a ghost town except for one chain. The subject line was Ray, trip itinerary. The sender's name was Lena. Emails were brief, logistical. A hotel confirmation in a city 2 hours away for a weekend. I thought James was at a sales conference. A dinner reservation for 2. Final email sent just 3 days ago. Read, can't wait. He'll wear the ring. It still feels like a dream. I love you. The return flight details were attached. 2 seats. James W. and Lena and I stared at the screen until the letters bled together. Lena, I knew Elena. James' cousin's wife's sister. No, James' former colleague. ED mentioned her years ago. Shed moved away. Shed got divorced. ED said it was sad. I closed my eyes and saw the ring. Rose gold. Young, trendy Lena. The confrontation didn't happen that night. I needed to be sure to have all the pieces. I waited until the weekend. He was planning to go hiking with the guys. I knew there were no guys. I followed him. Felt cliché and horrifying, my heart hammering against my ribs as I tailed his car at a safe distance. He didn't go towards the mountains. We drove to a chic apartment complex downtown, one with a trendy coffee shop on the ground floor. I parked across the street behind a delivery van. I saw her before I saw him. Lena emerged from the building, her auburn hair catching the sun. She was laughing, looking at the entrance. Then James came out. He was in hiking gear. He wore dark jeans and the sweater I'd bought him for his birthday. He walked up to her, put his hands on her waist, and kissed her. Not a friendly kiss. Deep, familiar, intimate kiss. And on her left hand, catching the light with every movement, was the pear-shaped diamond ring. I drove home in a blank haze. I didn't remember the journey. When he returned that evening, smelling of fresh air and a perfume that was mine, I was waiting in the living room. The navy blue box was on the coffee table between us. How was your hike? I asked, my voice strangely calm. Great, he said, stretching. Really cleared my head. He didn't notice the box at first. Good. Did you and the guys have a nice lunch? Yeah, just burgers. He finally looked down. His face went pale, then slack. The color drained from him completely. The performance was over. Chloe, I can explain. Explain what, James? I said, the calm beginning to crack. Explain why Lena is wearing an engagement ring. Explain why you have the matching box in our closet. Or explain why you've been living a double life. He crumpled onto the armchair, his head in his hands. The story spilled out in ragged pieces. It had started as a friendship, a reconnection after her divorce. It had just happened. It had been going on for 2 years. 2 years. The other ring was because Shed felt like a secret and he wanted to make a commitment to make her feel real. He loved her. He loved me too. He was confused. He was a coward. He was sorry. The words were a torrent of cliches, each one a scalpel peeling away the layers of our life together. The climax wasn't a scream. It was a whisper. Get out. He looked up, his eyes red. What? Get out of my house now. Take your things and go to her. Go to your real life. Chloe, please, this is our home. No, I said, standing up. Cold, clear fury had replaced the numbness. This is my home. You forfeited your share when you bought another woman a ring and stored it behind my sweater. You made a choice. Every day for 2 years you made a choice. Now I'm making mine. Get out. He left that night. He took a suitcase of clothes and the little blue box. Silence descended as the taillights of his car vanished. It was a roaring, deafening silence. It was the sound of a future dissolving. I didn't cry then. I walked through the rooms, touching the walls, the furniture, the photograph. I was a ghost in the museum of our marriage. That was 8 months ago. The divorce is final now. I sold the house. The quiet suburban home held too many echoes. I live in a condo downtown with a view of the river. Some days are okay. Some days the silence is still overwhelming. But it's my silence now. It's no longer the silence of his absence, but the quiet of my own presence. I'm learning who Chloe is without the title of Jameis' wife. It's terrifying and lonely and in the smallest of ways beginning to feel like freedom. I heard through the grapevine that he and Lena are engaged for real now. I don't know if that ring ever made it back into a blue box. I don't care. My story isn't about their happy ending. It's about my messy, painful, ongoing beginning. And sometimes a beginning starts with the end of a silence you never asked for. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever faced a betrayal that redefined your world, or if you're in the middle of that painful silence right now, please know you're not alone. Share your thoughts or your own story in the comments below. Your experiences help build a community of support. If you found this raw and real, please give this video a like and subscribe for more stories about love, survival, and the difficult truths of human relationships. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe for more horror stories.